Bruno Sanchez-Andrade Nuno is the director of Microsoft's AI for Earth program, which is building the planetary computer. He has a PhD in astrophysics and is postdoctoral researcher in rocket science. Bruno led the big data innovation at the World Bank Innovation Laboratories, served as a vice president of social impact at the satellite company Satellogic, and was leading Mapbox scientist. He also wrote a book, awarded Mirzayan Science Policy Fellow of the U.S. National Academies of Science, and a young global leader of the World Economic Forum.
Thank you for DOKU.TECH, and again, thank you for all the organizers, especially the ones in purple, so applause for them for all the work that you're doing. You make it happen. Also, thank you to IPCO and IPCO Foundation. And I don't know how many of you know the story of how Teresa and a few other people made IPCO. It's a really wonderful story of entrepreneurship, so I encourage you to check it out. Okay, so we're going to be talking about environmental sustainability and how AI and data can help and how important it is. But before we go into that, I love to just check who I'm speaking with, right? So who is a student right now? Awesome. And who is studying AI or coding? Pretty much the same people. That's a good sign. And for those who raise their hands, do you feel you have the right resources? Do you feel you have the right opportunities, or you need more? Need more? Okay, like, you're okay? Okay, that's really good. Those who are not studying AI, who here is full-time working? How do you think, raise your hand if you think AI is going to impact your work. Raise your hands if you're going to endanger your work. Okay, I'd love to know, you mind sharing what you do? Private design. Graphic design, that's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome that it's endangering your work, but thank you for sharing that. It is true that AI is here, is the present, it's not the future. And just to cut to the chase, I genuinely believe that just like other revolutions in technology, it's going to change how people do everything. How people do politics, how people do graphic design, how people do all these things. But I also genuinely believe that it's not going to replace the human factor. It's going to augment it. It's going to be your co-pilot. It's going to be the one that you don't tell the computer, hey, I'm going to make this, like this logo of the DOKU.TECH, and I make it every square. You're going to tell an AI algorithm, do this kind of style, and it's going to help you. I genuinely believe that AI is a tool, and as any tool can be used for good, and as any tool can be used for harm. It is up to you. It's up to all of you, especially all of you who are not studying AI, who don't know maybe what AI is, to ask the questions. To not be okay when you don't understand. To not be okay when you feel you're being not heard. It's genuinely the power of the people, especially in democracies, that is going to shape which direction AI works.
Let's go to your beginnings. Let's talk about your career. What sparked your interest in AI?
It's not per se AI what interests me. What interests me, and that's the book that I wrote about, is the role of science in society. Everyone has this image of scientists creating knowledge, making papers, and working in universities. But we don't have the image of the scientist who then goes and tries to apply that knowledge. It is not knowledge that is limit our progress, for example, in climate change. It's not one more paper that is going to solve climate change. Of course, we need to continue doing things. Of course, we need to do research. But I would argue it's more the lack of policies, the lack of understanding by companies, by governments at many levels to recognize that knowledge and apply it. And it's because this role of a scientist embedded in companies, embedded in governments, embedded in international institutions that is missing. That's what motivates me. Throughout my career, what I've tried to find is how I'm a rocket scientist, I studied astrophysics. I am not using my knowledge, but I'm using my skills to understand complexity. I'm using my skills as a scientist to transform or translate the knowledge in AI, the knowledge in climate change, the knowledge in whatever scientific endeavor it is, to the incentives and the structure and the institutions that I work with Microsoft right now and before with the World Bank or with other institutions.
We know by science we only have 400 gigatons of CO2 left if we want to live in a world below 1.5 degrees above the baseline, which is what scientists says that is the kind of the turning point. That is 7 years. We have 7 years at the current rate to go to the turning point, no turning point of this world. We also know that today, 1 in 3 people in the world will live in water-stressed areas, and it will be 1 in 2 in 2050. Water is not an issue here, but it is a big issue in many places. In fact, this year's crops are going to be lower because of climate change, which is going to exacerbate the problems of not having exports for countries, for example, Ukraine, who is one of the biggest exporters of some of the food production. There's going to be more food crisis linked to climate change, and we need to face that. We need to understand that with data and with the AI to plan for those. Governments need to understand how to use AI for these things. Companies need to use AI to optimize the supply chain. Supermarkets need to figure out how to prepare for all of these shocks in the systems. We know that we are increasing, only 20% of the waste is recycled, and the amount of waste is increasing. And waste is a huge, huge problem because it creates also health impacts, nature impacts, ecosystem impacts. It is a big problem. 25% of the species are at risk of extinction. And this is not because I care about elephants. It's not because we should care morally about, giraffes. It is because we depend on them. We are also the stewards of this planet, and we are killing species at an alarming rate. Bees, for example, there is a huge crisis of bees. They're dying, and we don't really understand why. Maybe because insecticides, all these things. But we know that bees provide a service to us in the trillions of dollars. If we had to replicate what bees are doing to create our food, it would be tremendously expensive. So it is in our own interest to care for the planet and for animals. Love this graph. It's from early 2020. We thought back then that COVID was a really huge crisis and it's going to hit us. Then we saw the recession coming back, and it's kind of what we're seeing now in the world. But behind that, there is a bigger wave, which is climate change. And behind that, there is a bigger wave, which is biodiversity collapse. I don't want to be fear-mongering and saying things are bad, but we need to take care of this planet because we've achieved a moment in history where we are influencing the entire planet. But also, we can fix it. So, we need to do environmental sustainability. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is to ask the question. And I want you to think about this for Kosovo, and I want to think about this for the entire world, because we are citizens in the world, and I see that this community especially is very interested in global issues, in social issues, in economic issues. So, at the end of the day, we should ask, in this world, what is where? We need data of what is where. What are the bees? What are the elephants? What are the trees? What are all of these things? How much is it? And how fast it's changing, for example, with climate change. And then we can ask questions like, what could be there if we do the right things? Or what should be there? That's on the same slide. And again, it's not only the moral issue, it's also in our own benefit. For example, when it rains, if you live in a city like Pristina, when it rains, all the water goes down the streets and it creates huge problems. If you had more parks, a lot of the rain, the runoff, would capture all of that rain, and there wouldn't be all of those flooding that happens, which also has impact because of health impacts and has other impacts. It also filters a lot of the pollution. So it is in our own interest to take care of nature, because nature will take care of us. And if we don't take care of nature, nature won't take care of us. So, a bit philosophical, we want to minimize the footprint we create in the world while maximizing human experience. And maybe this sounds too human-centric, but at the end of the day, is what a lot of people care about, is to have a good life and maybe go on vacation and fly this and fly there and consume more. How can we do that with the minimum amount of footprint? If the whole world behaved like the US, where I live now, we would need 2.5 Earths to sustain that. We don't have that, so we know we need to change.
I would like to learn more from your experience in science. Let's start with Microsoft, where you are the director of AI Earth program that is building the planet computer. What does this mean?
This is the realization that we are confronting many challenges at the global level on sustainability. Things like climate change, but also biodiversity. There are all of these issues related to how we are a society, how we make food, how we take care of forests, how we take care of animals, wild animals, but also like cattle for food, all of these things. And there is a need to understand all of this. And there is also, at the same time, this realization, there is all these new skills, all of these technologies, all this data, all this AI, all of this cloud computing that is extremely powerful in many ways. So the goal of AI for Earth is to figure out how we can apply all of these new technologies, all of these new skills for sustainability. Because we realized, and this happens in many areas, that those who are experts in cloud computing, those who are experts in computers or in science, tend not to be experts on sustainability. And those who are experts in sustainability tend not to be experts on all of this. So merging all of these skills is going to supercharge the potential of what we can do as society.
Such a wide program, so many things involved. How satisfied you are with the progress with this program?
This program is a 5-year program. We are in year 5, so we are closing the first chapter of this program. $50 million that Microsoft committed to do all of these things. More than 1,000 projects all around the world, and through that, through exactly the point that there is so many areas of application, so many things we could do, we realized that a common pain point was to have the right data to do the anywhere you have to do, and the right tools, the right software to do all of these tools, even though you need to still do the skilling, that we realize a lot of these things are common. Like, for example, satellite images. Satellite images are extremely helpful for anything, for agriculture, for urban planning, for disasters relief, for
climate change.
So we realized, why don't we create a planetary computer that allows anyone to quickly work, because they have already all that data on the satellite images, all the software, all the AI models, and then they can straight away start using for their own applications. And that's a learning from doing on the AI for Earth over the years, and that's why we created the planetary computer.
We know there's 3 things happening in environmental sustainability across the world. We know that it's increasingly complicated. We know that it's increasingly recognized, as I said before, super dependent on us. It's not just taking care of the polar bears. It's not a moral issue, it's a survival issue. And it's unavoidably interrelated. And sorry, this was the third point. The second point is that it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. It is a massive business. You could create companies that help other companies be more sustainable and make a ton of money out of it. You could also create NGOs and work with civil institutions to create a lot of value. Whatever flavor of creating value you want to do, environmental sustainability is one of those. Increasingly complicated, this is the most relevant for this conference. It's increasingly complicated because now we have more data. of what is where. We have data of the forests, we have data of the rivers, we have data of everything. We have so much data, we don't know how to store it and what to do with it. We also have cloud computing, and we also have algorithms to process this data, which are more and more complicated. All of these, if you are into computer science, like Kubernetes and all of these terraforms, all of these things that are more and more complicated to work with, but are very important. Geospatial analytics is the one I personally focus the most, because I think things happen somewhere. And the geospatial aspect of problems is extremely important, and is extremely complicated to work with for many reasons, not only data reasons, but also like political reasons or cultural reasons. And guess what? And there's also a lot of new science on sustainability. There are experts on this, which tend not to be experts in anything else. There are experts on that, which tend not to be experts on other things. And the same for all aspects. So the center of this Venn diagram is extremely small. And if we work to put experts on the same table across all of these domains, that's when we start to create a lot of value. That's when we start to say, hey, I have this problem with logistics, and someone says, hey, I have this data to help you with logistics, and I have this other algorithm to help to optimize for that, but it's combining all of this. I might have the answers because I know computing, but I don't have the questions of healthcare, for example. A doctor might have the right questions of healthcare, but I don't have the data of how to analyze the data, right? So again, is this combination of skills that creates the magic. For those of you who are donut dependent, you know the sustainable development jobs, the sustainable development goals, and in those, environmental sustainability is embedded in pretty much all of them. So, or if you like more the economic side of things, if you know the World Economic Forum, the top risk at the global level, and you don't need to read about those, and I'm happy to tweet about this, so you have slides. The green ones, environmental sustainability, and the top global risks by livelihood is the green ones, is sustainability. This was pre-COVID. Now with COVID, things have changed a bit because COVID has changed the world, but it's still the case that environmental sustainability is important. It is also the case that COVID is potentially coming from a zoonotic origin, meaning that we are displacing wild animals who are reservoirs of virus, and when we displace them, they infect us, and those infections trigger through the world. So it's also, again, important, not only for moral reasons, but for practical reasons. And again, if you care about money, there is this quote from The Economist: in climate tech, everything is hard. Everything except raising capital. There is so much money. Here's the investments. There is so many funds on climate change. There's so many funds on sustainability, and more are going to be coming. So if you are on environmental sustainability, you will have a much better chances of raising money. Again, this is for the entrepreneurs in the room, and there were not many hands up. Hopefully, if I ask the questions, there are going to be more hands up, because they're attracted by maybe the SDGs, the sustainable goals, or the funds, or economics.
Curious to know what is going to happen at the end of the chapter. What is this computer going to perform? How people are going to benefit?
It's only the beginning. It's only the beginning, because we are here for the long term. We want to be partners with all the stakeholders, everyone who's working. And in fact, the planetary computer obviously is going to continue to exist. Anyone from anywhere with an internet connection can go to planetarycomputer.microsoft.com, and for free, all using open source and open data, they have exactly the same resources as any government or any big corporation, any other company, any NGO, any academic. Anyone can use all of this.
I understand. Open source is very important.
It is very important. We are standing on the shoulders of a lot of people, a lot of scientists who have created a lot of this knowledge, a lot of governments that through tax-paid programs created all these satellites to make these images, to make it possible. So we believe that not only it's the right thing to do to create it open source, but also it maximizes the value. Because if it's open source, then you can take it as it is, or you can take it and modify it for your exact purposes.
And to me, in translation, everything sounds like intelligence, artificial intelligence. How much this artificial intelligence is involved in this project of yours?
Artificial intelligence is not the future, it's the present. And I believe that our societies are going to be fundamentally transformed in many ways, or even from the kind of jobs, new jobs we'll have, the kind of jobs we will stop having, to also the kind of things individuals can do right now through AI. A single individual can do the work that not even the biggest companies or governments could do in I don't know, 5 years ago.
How's that?
It's really democratizing all of this potential. For example, taking and classifying images of, I don't know, imagine you want to know the type of bird, the type of tree, you want to find something in pictures. It would take a lot of effort to find an algorithm to detect whatever you think it is, what type of for example, plant in the case of climate change, because it's invasive species or pests, all of these things. It would take a lot of experts with a lot of time, a lot of budget to do these things. Now, with AI, again, using open source and open data, anyone, for free, in a couple of hours, can do an algorithm that exposes these thousands of images that are already available, and the AI learns by itself how to recognize these things. And at the end of this afternoon working on, you have an extremely powerful machine that is proven to be better than experts on those fields.
Doing all of these projects and all the things we've done, I know I need to cut, that we needed to help everyone with an open source, open data thing that anyone, all of you, can use for your studies, for your entrepreneurship, for your companies, and that is a planetary computer, which I don't have, this is what I just said. It's satellite data, it's open source code to process the satellite data, to apply it to your own specific area, to your own specific geography, to your own specific need. This is more for these people in the audience that are students or computer scientists. Go to planetarycomputer.microsoft.com. All of this is free resources and it's all based on open data. Last slide. Choose the phrase, choose the sentence that motivates you the most. Top one is more moral, the second one is more economic incentives. Never before in the history have human beings been called to act collectively in defense of Earth, by Desmond Tutu. Or, this quote from Kara Swisher from the New York Times, that the world's first trillionaire will be a green tech sustainability entrepreneur using AI and using data. Kosovo has an incredible opportunity because you're a small country, you can move fast, you have incredible connectivity, you have incredible skills in computing. And in the post-COVID world, especially with remote workers and hybrid workers, you can be the hub of this change. I genuinely believe there is not many places in the world that can claim that, all of those things.
What are the limits of artificial intelligence?
There are limits.
Where's the border?
The border is always advancing in a way, and that is a good thing. Like again, we can do today what we can do today with any kind of resource, any kind of computer, what not even the best computer could do in 5 years ago, right? So the limits are always growing, but we should also recognize, for example, that any AI will only be as good as the data that is given. For example, if you have an AI which is meant to recognize people, like for example, like the logo of DOKU.TECH this year, and you only training with white people, it will have troubles recognizing people from other races. Right. So if you like this algorithm to identify people, to give them benefits, for example, social benefits, or to identify people because of suspected crimes or whatever thing it is, you have to understand the limitations of the data that was provided for. Or if the algorithm is good at detecting features like faces, like eyes, for example, what happens with people with glasses? Or if it's meant for people with, I don't know, one type of hair, the other type of hair. It is inherently in the learning, it's it's the bias of the material you have learned with.
What are your greatest hopes and greatest fears for artificial intelligence solutions?
The greatest hope is that it will fundamentally augment all jobs in the world by basically transforming everything that is repetitive, everything that could be automated, into intents. You will not need to program, hey, I want to remove clouds on these images, or I want to I want to zoom in, for example, in the camera right now, and then you need to move a wheel, or you need to adjust the lighting. No, you will tell the AI, hey, zoom in, and the AI will figure out how to do that. So we will move to jobs where instead of doing things, we will tell the intent to the AI, and the AI will do those things. That's a really big hope, because then we will stop driving, for example. If we don't want to drive, we can just give the intent to the car, drive me to Ferizat, and then it will just navigate through all of the things it needs to do. A fear is a few fears, and this conference is probably going to highlight a lot of those, and one is the limitations inherent to the data that it learns, or we must recognize that AI is not magic. AI is explainable. AI should not be cool. AI should be something that we can understand how it works. We understand how cars work. Some people understand more how mechanics understand more how cars works. Some people don't understand how cars work. But cars are not magic. If you want to understand how a car works, you can do that. If you want to understand how an AI works, you can do that. And it's extremely important that we always pay attention to explaining what the AI is doing, because then we will see the things that it cannot see.
Bruno, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of young students. You met people, you met young students, and most of them are very much keen into technology and AI. Do they share with you their experience, or have you shared with them your experience and your journey?
I've done, the third time I came to Kosovo, it was with Swiss EP, which is an NGO who's helping see the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. And I was very surprised. There's a lot of people doing really interesting things to skill up on technologies. There's the maker space, hacker space, there is all these startups, and it was wonderful to see there's so much interest to do things. And it's also a combination that Kosovo has one of the highest, if not the highest, internet penetration and low cost of basically the world. So it's a really good combination for technology, it's a really good combination for AI, in the sense that there are almost no barriers for anyone in Kosovo today to do AI at the very front, at the very edge of human knowledge, because we have so much power, so many resources to do these things. So if there is something I would encourage everyone, especially young people, is just get curious, ask questions. It's sometimes easy to see how this is all very difficult, this is all very hard for someone like me to learn about this. It's not the case, really. You can start slow, you can do projects. The best thing you can do for yourself is to invest in yourself with curiosity. Invest in yourself to understand what AI means. How do you apply AI? What are the limits of these applications? And believe me when I say, you have everything you need. You have the data you need, you have the algorithms you need, there's no need of money, because you can do all of these things for free with things like the planetary computer. And I am 100% convinced that anyone in Kosovo who spends some time learning, could take a month, it could take 3 months, could get the skills to be employed by the biggest companies in the world. And I'm convinced, because I've seen it. I've seen it, people that didn't know any coding, and they did online courses, like there's one called fast.ai, which is really good. The one is online, it's free, and all these things. And after 3 months, they were employed by Google, and employed by other companies. It is uncanny how today you can do so much with internet connectivity.
So can you, of all of those 1,000 grants that you all have given and the 120 countries, can you give one example of someone that's using the resources from the planetary computer of something that they've done with those resources related to sustainability?
Super quickly,
Yeah.
There's a problem in Sweden where there is a pest that's affecting forests. And it's really hard to know what it is, how it's progressing. We built an AI algorithm, satellite images, that is able to detect trees with this pest or not from satellite images. If you want a quick summary of AI, is that AI is better than humans at classifying whatever a human could classify with more time. And that's so many things in the world. There's another example where we help AI to classify again animals or species in African countries because it's important to do surveys or to see what wildlife interactions that are happening. There is also projects where we use satellite images and farmers to estimate the crops that they're going to get and to estimate how much nutrients to put in the water. There are projects to detect pollution in rivers, who then, when a river is polluted, creates parasites, creates plants, that the plants create parasites, which affects human. So the amount of things AI can reach directly or through proxies is virtually endless.